Thank you very much for checking out this video. Uh, Today we are going to be solving a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. So most of you, if not all of you, have heard the word quadratic formula. But some of you actually are always wondering what is the quadratic formula and how do I solve a quadratic equation. So you stumble upon this video for a reason, and that reason is to learn how to solve a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. Now, on a side note, there are a lot of methods to solve a quadratic equation, but specifically for this video, we are going to be teaching you how to solve the quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. So let's go. Now, the quadratic equation can be derived from a particular equation called the general form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So the quadratic equation can be derived from this equation, and this equation is called the general form of the quadratic equation. But you have to check out our other video where we derived the quadratic equation using this particular equation. Today we are just going to go directly with the quadratic equation to solve a problem. So the quadratic equation is, all of you can now start saying it with me. So let's write it. X is equals to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. This is called the quadratic equation formula. Now do not make the mistake of taking this radical and stopping it right over the a or over this 4. So the radical goes all the way until it covers the c, because the entire expression there under the square root is called the determinant, and everything is under the square root. Great. So now let's get a quadratic equation. So what if you are told to solve the equation x squared minus 4x plus 5 equal to 0? What if you are told to solve this equation using the quadratic formula? What will you do? So the first thing, if the equation is not written in standard form, this is the standard form of the quadratic equation. If it is not written in that form, you have to write it in that form by writing the x squared term first, and then the x term second, and the constant term. So this is called the quadratic term, the linear term, and the constant term. Great. Now, if we compare the coefficients, we notice that the coefficient of x squared here is a, and for this question, the coefficient is just 1. So a is 1. The coefficient of x is b, and the coefficient of x here is negative 4. So b is negative 4, and c, which is a constant term, here is 5. So we call out a little data. So we say data. For this data, we say our a is 1, b is negative 4, and c is 5. So we just go right ahead and plug in these values into this quadratic equation formula and simplify the result. That's how we solve a quadratic equation. So I'm going to rewrite x is equals to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. So we have x is equals to minus, what is a b? So this negative is on this b, so your b is negative 4. So you have to open your parentheses to show that you are multiplying these two negative, plus or minus the square root of this b squared. So b is negative 4, so you have negative 4 squared minus 4ac. So you are multiplying these three numbers, 4ac. So this is 4, a is 1, so I'm going to open your parentheses and put the value of a there, and c is 5. All divided by 2a. And what is a? A is 1. So x is equals to negative times negative is positive. So this entire thing will give us positive 4 plus or minus the square root of. Now this is negative 4 squared. And negative 4 squared is 16 minus 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. It's 20 all divided by 2 times 1 is 2. So we have to work within this radical before doing any other thing. So let's continue from right here. We have x is equals to, so x is equals to 4 plus or minus the square root of. This is 16 minus 20. Now, you were taught in your classes that when you are subtracting two numbers, the highest number carries a sign, especially when the two signs are different. So in this case, you have 16 and 20. This is positive and this is negative. So the answer will be negative 4. because we subtract the small number from the greater number, and the greater number carry the sign. So negative 4 all divided by 2. Now in this case, we have a negative under the square root, and we can define, because if you take a calculator and press the square root of negative 4, you are going to have an undefined expression. So we can define a particular expression that will give us the square root of negative numbers. So we have, note that I is equal to the square root of negative 1. So this I is called iota, and it was actually introduced because mathematicians realized that they were not finding the square root of negative numbers. So this I was invented so that we can define the square root of negative numbers. And that definition, so this definition led to a whole set of number system called a complex number system, which we'll explain in upcoming videos. So let's go. So we have x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of. So this negative 4 can be written as 4 times negative 1 all divided by 2. So x is equal to 4 plus or minus. We have to separate this, and so we write it as the square root of 4 times the square root of negative 1, because we are multiplying in the parentheses, so we can separate the radicals. All divided by 2. So x is equal to 4 plus or minus. So what is the square root of 4? That's 2. And what is the square root of negative 1 according to this definition? That's I, all divided by 2. So in this case, we can separate the denominator under each of them. So we have 4 over 2 plus or minus 2I over 2. If we do this, we will notice that 2 goes into 4, it goes 2 times, plus or minus. Now 2 into 2 1 times, so we'll just have an I. Therefore, we have two values. x1 is 2 plus I, so 2 plus I, and x2 is 2 minus I, so it's 2 minus I. So when you solve a quadratic equation, you will have two solutions, because according to the fundamental theorem of algebra, it says that if you have an equation, a polynomial equation, based on the degree of that polynomial, the root is going to be equal to the degree. So a polynomial of degree 4 will have 4 roots, a polynomial of degree 5 will have 5 roots, and so on. So this is how we solve a quadratic equation using the formula. We collect A, B, and C and plot them within the formula and simplify. So thank you very much for watching, and we hope this is beneficial to you. Post any kind of comment within the comment section and we will respond to them. Thank you.